On the edge of real and cyberspace, there's one place you can go, and you found it. Welcome to the Knightwise.com podcast, the one and only podcast with hacks, tips, and tweaks for cross-platform geeks. Hey, guys and girls, my name's Knightwise, and I'll be your host on this episode of the Knightwise.com podcast entitled The Simplicity of Creativity. I just did something that I haven't done in a long time, whereas I pressed record on a wee little MP3 recorder in my car and started talking to you. That very simple action has been something that I've been doing for years when I started out with the Knightwise.com podcast. I would be in the car, I would have this wee little box, I would have a microphone, and I would have some earbuds, and I would just press record and start talking to you. And the reason I want to tell you about this today is because as the years have progressed, I've been doing this since 2006 or something. For some reason, it has become harder and harder for me to be that creative. And time is surely an issue. I mean, when you get your own company, it's completely out the window. There's plenty of stuff to be done. But on the other hand, there's also the fact that, although technology has progressed, if I take a look at the tools we have today versus the tools we had back then, they have not enabled me to be as creative as I wanted to be. And that's really funny, because the basics of the Knightwise.com podcast is, of course, let technology work for you. And over the last couple of years, technology has become more complex, and doing a show has become more troublesome and more cumbersome, and has become a hassle, because there were so many possibilities, there were so many things that you could do. However, I never did them. So that got me thinking, how come my creativity and my urge to create is going down, although the means that I have to be creative is going up? That was an interesting one for a show, because we might all be facing this. We are, as technology progresses, bombarded with tools and means and abilities to share whatever we want to share, whether it's a podcast or a blog article or I don't know what, with the world, yet we don't. One of the reasons for that, of course, is distractions. I mean, being constantly connected to the internet and getting all kinds of ding-dongs and doodads all of the time is pretty destructive for your creativity. But on the other hand, it's also the fact that the more tools that you have, the harder it becomes to choose the right one. And pretty soon, you end up spending more times looking for the right tool to do something than actually doing something. And that is something that especially people who are working with getting things done surely must recognize. So that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about today. And I've kind of did some brainstorming, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to record that show in the car like I used to. So let me just tell you about the gear that I'm using right now. I've bought a Zoom H1N, and it's a wee tiny low budget, it's about $100 MP3 recorder, and it is absolutely fantastic. I bought my first Zoom, I think, over 10 years ago. Let me think, 10, 12, 15 years ago, easily. And that was my first, USB microphone. It was a recorder, it was a microphone, it was fantastic. I mean, it sounded great. I could use it as a portable recorder. It has been the Knightwise.com video mic for the longest time. It has recorded many podcasts, and it started replacing my quite complex Behringer setup. I had this Phantom powered condenser microphone and the boom arm and God knows what. And you know, once I got the Zoom H2, it all kind of became a little simpler. And it has served me well for many years. Then of course came smartphones, and I started recording episodes on my phone, and you know, as technology progresses. But even before I had the Zoom H2, I had something else. I had this little iRiver 970 recorder, and that's the one that I always used in the car to record the show. I recorded them on a Griffin iMic, which was a small stereo microphone that they put out somewhere in 2006. I had this little iRiver recorder that had a microphone input and a headphone output, and it had 512 megabytes of storage or something. It was ridiculous, but it worked. Once I pressed record and started recording, you know, it would go. And I missed that little setup because it was not something that I did on my phone. It was not, and although my phone is a great platform for my creativity, this is not on my phone. My phone's right in front of me right now because I'm driving, and I'm just doing a recording on a little recorder. And why is this so important to me? Well, because it basically takes all the creativity stuff and separates it from my entire distractions and communication stuff. So I like that. The reason I bought the Zoom H2 was indeed to have something simple again, to have a separate recorder in my back pocket or in my bag that I could use to record the world around me. And it separated my urge to be creative and to record something from my phone, which is basically, my work computer on the go with tons of distractions and chats and God knows what. This is just a recording, this just does it. And that is pretty important to me because that was for me my first step into making sure that my technology would, support my creativity. So I kind of split this up in three things. If you want to be more creative and you want to put that creativity out there, you can start with your gear. And here is the truth of it all. If you take a look at the gear that is available to you right now, either as a video blogger or as a blogger or as a podcaster, and I'm talking about apps, I'm talking about microphones, I'm talking about plop screens, I'm talking about boom arms, I'm talking about monitoring speakers, I'm talking about webcams and LED rings and light bags and soft boxes and God knows what. I mean, there is so much out there. And then there's the software. It's amazing. I mean, GarageBand, fantastic little application that can turn your PC into a bloody multi-track studio. Audacity, cross-platform recording rig that lets you edit audio like a pro. I mean, there is so much out there. And that's the trouble. Because you step into that trap where you go like, oh, this is cool, I'm going to use that. And maybe this is cool, and I'm going to use that. And maybe this is cool, and I'm going to use that. And you end up having this massive, massive clutter of stuff that is there to enable you to be creative. And if I can say one thing, get rid of almost all of it. There are downsides to having three microphones because you don't know which one to use. There are, in which situation, I know some microphones are better for this or that, but when you have like a ton of stuff around that microphone, it's a hassle. Keep your setup extremely simple. And only if you reach the boundaries of the hardware that you're using, only if you reach the boundaries of the software that you're using, then start looking for something else. Because the trap that we all fall into is that we see an ad or we hear a review about a certain app or a certain piece of gear. And we go like, yeah, that would be awesome. Let's get that. And you get it. And you use it, but maybe not to its fullest. And then there's this other tool, and you go, oh, that's cool too. Wow, wow, a high microphone. That really looks cool. Let's do that. And you buy that, and you have to adapt and learn how to use it. And all of this is getting in the way of your creativity. What you basically should be doing is coming pretty close to the boundaries of the stuff that you're using, where you really say like, I really want to do this, and it doesn't work in the tool or with the hardware that I have anymore. So let's buy something that does this. And you very specifically start hunting down for apps or hardware that you need to do that. And for the rest, you keep your setup extremely and terribly simple. For me, it's, for the moment, I have reduced my life to 2 microphones, I think. I've got the I got the Rode NT1, which is a USB condenser microphone with live monitoring. Sounds awesome. I bought it on a whim because basically I didn't need it. I could do everything with the Zoom H2n, but you know, you want new gear, you know how it is. Yeah, sure. I am very pleased with it. The audio quality is fantastic, and I'm very happy with it. And behind it, I have a little. I've got me this little plop screen that, you know, takes care of echo. So there's this little padded semicircle of a shield behind it with padded sound absorbing material to take care of any echo that I have. And when I start recording, yeah, sure, I can really think about, oh, I can do this, or I need to do that, or perhaps I need to pad my room more and stuff. And I go like, you know what, instead of spending hours on improving the sound quality of whatever I'm doing, unless I really, really need it, let's just keep it at this. And so there it is. There's this little microphone on my desk with this padded shield behind it. And it's on a tripod, and it has a USB cable, and boom, that's my studio setup. Nothing more. And on the road, it's kind of the same thing. I also wanted to have something simple again. So my Zoom H2 was getting a little long in the tooth. It was a little big. And I really wanted something that was as portable and as fun to use as that iRiver recorder that I used to have back in the day. But it just wasn't there anymore. It doesn't exist anymore. iRiver doesn't make stuff anymore. And these things, you know, they're 15 years old. You can't get them even if you wanted to. Which was kind of a bummer, because I kind of wish that, you know, I kind of wish that it was still there. But it isn't. That's okay. You know, it's fine. It's all right. Now, what to do? Well, I got me the Zoom H1n, which is a wee little recorder. It can act as an external USB sound card. It accepts microphone inputs and headphone outputs, and it has 2 built-in microphones, which actually sound great as well. You can mount it on a tripod, or you can use it as a little microphone, and it just works. The reason I've been doing this is because I had the hardest time getting some kind of lapel microphone to work with my Android phone, you know, because you want some live monitoring when you're recording on your phone, and it has to sound right, and blah, 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 blah. So I thought, like, you know, screw that. I'm not going to record anything on my phone anymore. I'll just record it on my little microphone, on my little recorder, and that's it. So that's the gear that I'm using. Right now, to record in the car, I have one headset microphone, because I also use a little lapel microphone, but it always rustles with my shirt. So I bought this little boom microphone from JB Systems, which is a studio microphone for DJs and stuff, that I got a couple of years ago. It was just lying around, and you know what? It just works. It doesn't look really great, because I look like a mission control operator with this boom microphone, but I'm in the car and it's fine. The essence is I'm recording. That's, for me, that's the hardware. And then there's the software. And I could say, like, yeah, I use Audacity, and I use Ardour, and I use this, and I use that. And I went like, you know what? I just have a multi-track recording with a couple of jingles, and I just want to get stuff out there. So I decided that, you know, I'm just going to do this in GarageBand. Why? Because it's simple. I don't have to do a lot of things manually. I record in a good quality. Everything sounds good enough. I can record straight into Audacity. I can drop files straight into Audacity. I can apply all of the mixers that I have and all of the presets that I have, and it just works. Good enough. Not cross-platform, I know, but I'm a cross-platform geek, which doesn't mean I have to do everything on all three platforms. I just need to be able to work on all three platforms. And if my Mac's the best for one, well, then it's the best for one. Boom, GarageBand, choice made, down. End of line. So that's the gear. And the tip that I want to have, that if you have all of this extra clutter lying around that you could also use should you want to, but you don't really need it, sell it. Get rid of it. Get rid of it. The more stuff you have, the harder it will be for you to be creative. This gets me, and this is also about software. Choose one recording application, try it out, try out a couple, choose one, stick to it. Don't hop around. I mean, with getting things done tools, it's the same. It's terrible. You just keep, bouncing around and adapting to new tools, and you're working more with the software and the settings and figuring it out while you wanted to be creative. So just be creative. Choose anything that works, stick to it, and get rid of all the rest. Period. Then there is the way you use this technology. I've got some pretty cool gear at home to do audio and to do video. I'm really happy with it. And when I wanted to, I would set everything up. I'm going to have this little live studio. I would set everything up and the lights and everything, and then I would start recording and start doing something, which was fun. And then when I was done, I would take it all down again. And when I wanted to do something again, I'd need to set it all up again. I'd take it all down again. I'd set it all up again. And take it all down again. And the hassle of having a lot of gear is that it takes quite some time to set it up. So the less gear you have, the less time you need to set things up. I especially had this with my, I have a mixer table for DJing. And, I've been all over the place. I tried Mix, I tried Record Box, I tried doing this on my PC and on my Mac. And, when I had the time to do, a little DJing, it would take me half an hour to get everything working. And, and then it would be like, I'll go do something else. So that's my second tip for you guys. That is that you need to have your creativity gear, if possible, set up already to be able to, just punch it in and go. Everything's like set up, your microphone's set up, your keyboard's ready, your blogging tool, whatever you're using, is ready. Your website that you're going to blog on, or that you're going to your YouTube account that you're going to work with, it's logged in, it's ready to go. You just open it up, punch it in, and boom, you're ready. The more gear you have, the harder this gets, because it gets more complicated. So keep it simple, and make sure that the timing between wanting to record something or wanting to create something and being able to release that urge is as short and sweet as possible. And having less gear, or knowing all the tools that you're using, instead of having to, figure everything out beforehand, is really important to this little project, to this little process. So, whenever you have the urge to create, and there's the ability to create, the time in between that should be as short as possible. Then comes item number 3. And the great thing is I'm stuck in traffic right now, so the road noise and the and the noise on the windscreen is going to be less. Number 3 is your mentality towards releasing your creativity. And your mentality towards releasing your creativity has to be one of constant experimentation. Let yourself experiment. I think that one of the reasons that podcasting in its liberal form, in its grassroots form, has died down is because we all wanted to sound like radio hosts. We all wanted to have the best gear. We all wanted to sound immaculate. We all wanted to have all of that stuff that the big guys had. And we wanted to be like the big guys. And we wanted to be like, the radio shows with the format and the ads and the God knows what. And you know what? You don't. You don't have to be anything or anyone. The great thing about what I thought about podcasting, which is my creative urge that I release, is that you want to be able to experiment and you want to be able to get your creativity out there and be creative in a way that is good enough. Good enough for the content that you release. Good enough for the urge of your creativity to find its way out to the canvas, the canvas of the world. That's an important one because you gotta let yourself be creative and experiment. This, for me, is an experiment. I've got this new recorder, I've got this boom microphone, I have no idea how it's going to sound. And maybe it's not going to sound awesome, but my show is going to be out there. And the experience that I've had of creating the show gives content to my audience, who I've informed that this is an experiment, so live with it, guys. But also, I now get the hang of, working with the tool in real time. And I might release the show, I might not. But it's an experiment, and it doesn't have to be perfect. You can do your own thing. If I were to say, like, I want to sound like, the guy from 99% Invisible, those guys have an engineer running a board. They have a professional studio. They have a very expensive microphone. But when and they have a lot of preparation. So when this guy walks in, everything's set up. The creative process is ready to go. And basically all he has to do is do his thing. So you're not going to be like that. You have a life. If you have a full-time audio engineer at your disposal at a whim, nice for you. It's good for you. But it's not like that for most of us. So experiment. It's okay if it's not perfect. Because if it is in this experimentation that you grow, trying things out, being creative, doing things, writing a blog article that's slightly different of how copy should be written, making a video that is slightly different about the format that everybody has on YouTube, where you have the boring countdown of 5 items. Just do what you like to do, what you want to do. Just, have fun, be creative, and make sure that you can release that creativity instead of trying to adhere to a lot of rules. That's a very important one for me to have out there. Hold on, just passing a little fender bender, a little accident here where, wow, 2 guys crashed into each other. Wow. And these people just, stay on the road like idiots, just standing there. Wee little pile up. Okay, good. So let yourself experiment and don't ever adhere to any rules. Just do what you want to do. If I were to say, well, yeah, a podcast should be recorded in a studio and it all has to sound fine and blah, 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 I don't have the time. I do have the time when I sit in the car. Okay, let's take the studio in the car. It's gonna, you're gonna hear the wind wipers and the traffic and my horn, but that's okay. This is a show. And finally, give yourself the time to be bored. I've written about this before because it was something that was on my mind, that whenever, a couple of years ago, I was at one of the speaker conferences, and they had Oliver Stone on stage, the big director. And this is a very talented man who's he's directed big films and stuff. And he came on stage and he looked at us and he said, "I hope you're bored." And a little flutter of excitement went through the audience. And he goes on to talk about the importance of being bored, because in boredom, your mind will look for stimuli. Your mind will look for something to do. Your mind will start wandering. And a wandering mind is not always a bad thing, because then you have the time to think about things. Maybe there's this little idea in the back of your head that you want to play around with. Well, play around with it. Do it. I mean, give yourself the space to let things bubble up and play with them in your head. But being bored is really, really hard because, quite frankly, we don't get to be bored anymore. We are constantly bombarded by stimuli, by distractions. I just got in a text of one of the people in my class later on, of interruptions, of crap media. We're terrorized. Yes, that's the word. We're terrorized by social media algorithms that constantly want to draw us in and have us consume and consume and consume. And as long as we do that, if you scroll 9gag for half an hour, or YouTube for half a day, or Facebook for half a month, you're not creating anything. You're not doing anything. You're not even creating anything, but you don't give yourself the time to be creative in the way that you think, because you're constantly getting input, and you don't have the time to say, what can I do with this input? What can happen with that? What would I be able to make at this? So let yourself be bored. And guys, girls, I turned 45 a couple of days ago, and I've been in podcasting and on the web for almost 23 years. And this is my tip. Disconnect. Here it is. The guy that says, "Let technology work for you," says disconnect. Disconnect from the constant flow of distractions and interruptions and interactions and content, to let yourself experience the world around you. I have started leaving my cell phone at home during the weekends. One, because I wanted to be less distracted, because work was always around the corner. And two, because I wanted to be more in touch with my surroundings. So not looking at my phone, but looking at the world. And I ended up on this there was a parade in the city of Maastricht, not far from where we lived. And it was the Liberation Parade. So basically they would have a lot of some army vehicles and veterans that would, be marched into town. It was a ticker tape parade, which was really cool. And I went like, wow. And then I went like, I don't know how this happened. How was Maastricht liberated by the Allies? When was that done? So my mind went like, okay, we need information. And normally I would just open up my phone, browse through, and just read the article on Wikipedia and be informed. Well, I didn't know. I didn't have my phone with me. So I had to make things up. And I went into my mind and I saw the veterans coming in, which was really, really cool. And I went like, what must it have been like? And I didn't know. But because I didn't know, my mind immediately started to come up with stories. And these stories were pretty darn interesting. It was fun. I was imagining things. And then I went like, oh my God, I don't have my phone with me. I cannot record this. Well, you know what? I just watched. And it was amazing. Because instead of going through camera settings and finding the right, way to take the picture and get all of the veterans in there, I just watched. And I have more vivid memories of that event than I would have had if I would have watched them on my phone, through the little screen of my phone. So I didn't capture the content right there. I just enjoyed the world around me and I watched it. And it was pretty cool because I somehow got a lot more out of it. And my creative mind made the stories up about the information that I didn't have. So that's one of the tips that I surely take with you. Give yourself the luxury of being bored, and that's why I'm recording on a recorder that doesn't ring or gets email messages or God knows what. It's just there. It's a dumb little wee recorder, and it just works. So give yourself the ability to be bored, tune out your distractions, and take notice of your environment and of your own thoughts and let them flow. And if you have a crazy idea, do it. Okay, so time to round up my little experimental rant. And I kind of hope that you got something out of this show, because I'm talking to the audience. I'm talking to you who's listening, but I'm also talking to some of the podcast veterans out there. I know I am. That have been in the scene and have created content. And I'm talking to people who might have, blogged or had a website or did some YouTube videos and who have kind of let it go because it's become too much of a hassle or life's gotten in the way or stuff like that. Well, maybe this is, I don't know, a call to arms for you guys and girls to pick up that keyboard, log into that website, tilt that webcam, press that record button, dig up that old microphone, and start doing something again and sharing it with the world. No matter if it's not perfect, no matter if it's not the right format, no matter if it doesn't look fantastic or it doesn't sound fantastic. You know what? I don't care. Just do it. I want to close up with an image that I have formed in my mind, or that jumped up to me actually yesterday, that stuck in my mind. Tonight I'm giving a class to 15 entrepreneurs on how to do a video blog for their own company, which is pretty darn, coming to think of it, it's pretty darn fantastic. I've had this crazy experimental stuff in the back of my head for so many years, doing Knightwise and stuff like that, and now I've been able to turn it into what I do for a living, which is great because I love doing that and I love to trigger the creativity in people. And they are really stuck, in it has to be perfect, and I don't want to be on camera, and I'm very shy, and oh my God, I'm not going to be able to do it right, and it's going to sound terrible, and oh my God, and my image and the image of my company, what do I do? And you're not supposed to communicate like that, isn't it? They're so scared, and they're so locked in to, distractions and things going on and the fear of failing, that they forget to experiment. This is with their livelihood. And even I am going to ask them to experiment. And I'm going to show them this little video that I found of this, I think it's an 11-year-old kid that gets up in front of the camera and shows people how they can make a slow motion video. Now, if you take a look at the way a classic video is structured, this video is off completely. I mean, it's she doesn't look into the fourth wall. She looks onto our own screen. Then she breaks the fourth wall. Then then she's distracted by something, and she gets a text to go like, oh, I get a text right now. She reads the text and she goes on. A regular when you would be doing a regular video recording, you would have pressed stop and thrown away 15 takes, but she just leaves it running. This is her video. And she is so incredibly brave because she just does it. And the fun fact is that she doesn't know how brave she is. She just goes like, okay, this is the technology around me. This is what I want to show people. It's about, she shows people how she does a slow-mo by doing her hair flip. And it's fantastic. And she just does it. She's brave. She looks into the camera. She does her thing because the technology's there. She doesn't mind that the audio isn't perfect. She doesn't mind that it is not like a regular video should be structured. She doesn't do a ridiculous countdown. She doesn't have an intro screen. No, she just has something to share with the world and brings it out there. And that video for me was gold because now I can not only show the people in my class, this is how you make a slow-mo video. I can also whoop their asses by saying this is an 11-year-old kid getting in front of the camera and doing her thing. So what's your excuse? So look for the inner child in you. Forget the rules. Forget the hassle. Forget the gear. Just do what you want to do and let technology work for you.
And that's all the time we have this week on the Knightwise.com podcast, Season 14, Episode 4, Enabling Your Digital Creativity. As we close out the year, this has been a fantastic reminder from Knightwise for all of us to just get out of our own way. We all have our own creative abilities and creative desires, and it's really important that we find an outlet for them. We're not all going to be Roman Mars, and we don't have to be. We're also not all Knightwise. Take some time to find yourself an outlet that works for you, disconnect from the world a little bit, be bored for a little while, and get away from the constant bombardment of the outside world, and just turn it all off. If you have any feedback for us, you can always hit us up on the old email address. It's feedback@knightwise.com. You can also find us over on the Facebook group at knightwise.com/Facebook, or of course, the super secret Telegram channel. On behalf of all of us here at the Knightwise.com podcast, this is Keith Murray, wishing you a wonderful holiday season, a very happy new year, and we'll talk to you all again in 2020 as we look for more ways to let the technology work for us instead of the other way around.
You have been listening to the Knightwise.com podcast, the show with hacks, tips and tweaks for cross-platform geeks. Send your feedback, questions, or start your own personal flame war by contacting us directly on feedback@knightwise.com. You can support the show by sharing it with your friends or writing us a nice iTunes review at www.knightwise.com/iTunes. If you have some credits to spend, click the PayPal button on the Knightwise.com website to help us pay the bills. Just remember, there is real life outside cyberspace. But it's not all that important.
Bye.